Well, I mean, you're just producing a citizenship act by coming here because the hall is full. As a matter of fact, understanding the way things are processed is very important, the way things work. Now, with this roundtable, I would like to introduce our panelists. You know Samuel Novakovsky, Marianne Hadin, who's the Executive Director of Higher Education for Good Foundation and CEO of Good Foundation, and also David Marguerite, economist and working at l'Isère. And so with our three friends, it's a great pleasure to speak about skills and speak about what's going to change in the world of labor. And now, just to give you figures, 43% was asked, say that they were using AI in their work, and ABCG, published by ABCG, 58% say that AI, saves a few hours per week, 5 hours per week. And some people think that their job might disappear over the 10 years to come. What I understood, Samuel, with what you said, globally speaking, whereas some people think that AI will allow us to be a bit more lazy and know less to produce more, it seems to me that we have to know more and monitor even more to understand. And the students are over there, and you will have to learn more to be more critical. I think the challenge in our world is the world of complexity. If we want to master in the right way tools with such a power, and then it requires energy, which means that I use in my classes, but we are a kind of thermodynamic world. Everything has a cost energy, cost for the commitment as well. And so we are performing tools at the moment we can use and give them the right place. And not only be consumer of these tools. So we need the competence to be able to discriminate and raise the question whether I'm going to use that tool or not, or can I do it, or should I do it? Well, not necessarily should I use this tool. And otherwise, if I use this tool, why am I using this tool, and how am I going to give it importance? How am I going to parameter this tool on the degree of the way I'm going to use it? And this is a very important challenge. It's like teaching citizens. If I want to have citizens who are aware, I need to teach them. Well, it's a nice transition to come to you with David Margaret. The word is operating a transition. Well, first of all, I'm not going to focus on AI, but as a reminder, I would like to say that it's not the first technological revolution. There have been so many technological revolutions with the steam machine, the wheel, the internet, computers. And so what we notice is that we never had so many jobs as today. Yeah, of course, in this debate, we'll say that jobs are being destroyed, but it creates also many jobs. And so what we learned from the past is that there's always been more jobs that were created than destroyed. Now, what about AI? I think that tomorrow, this will help also. We won't be unemployed tomorrow. We won't be substituted by robots. But there will be a kind of reshuffle of the labor market. I am an economist, and the economists like statistics. And I noted some figures to show how AI is developing rapidly. With the ChatGPT, for example, we needed 5 days to reach 1 million members, and for example, Instagram 2.5 months of membership. So really, AI is speeding up. ChatGPT is a very specific example because it's very easy to use. ChatGPT, you go on an internet site and then GPT or whatever, and then it's easy of access. Now anyone can use it, and this is going to change the labor market. And just rapidly, computer, internet. If you look at ChatGPT 2 years ago, according to the studies that were released. I mean, 40% of those people would apparently are using GPT as a working tool. If we compare with the computer, 2 years after the computer was rolled out, there's only 20% of the workers who would use the computer. Internet, same thing. I mean, less than 20%. So it's a big difference, and it's one of the last revolutions we experience. Also because ChatGPT is being used by a diversity of workers, which is different from the computers being used by a specific niche, used by scientists, for example, or people working in sciences or in the tertiary field. But I mean, if we look at all these studies talking about EU 5 to 6 million jobs that are going to be turned into other jobs. Some of the jobs are going to be changed fundamentally. We're talking about 30% of working hours. Now, I mean, concretely speaking, I mean, who is affected? In order to understand how this works, I mean, I'm telling you our policy in term as economists. I mean, we defined a job as a task, as a set of tasks. I mean, I get data from you, I write reports, I take part to events like this one, and I'll be able to publish what I've learned. Now, these are various tasks, and AI is going to substitute some of these tasks, maybe not all the tasks I'm producing. So some of the tasks are going to be substituted, which is called automation, and is part of my job. And this may impact the job and may substitute jobs. But automation is not always negative on the job. It also has a positive effect on the job, because using AI, I'm going to be more productive. My cost in producing analysis is going to decrease. And so there will be more demand, and so the demand will increase. Demand equals the supply, and then we're going to hire to be able to meet the demand, etc., etc. So you see, I mean, in a way, I mean, this impact can be positive, not always negative. And then we're going to look at the kind of tasks that the AI can do. For example, cognitive tasks, reasoning, summaries, extract patterns with a set of data. And if you bring this close to the kind of jobs, then the kind of jobs that will be impacted. For example, I listed readers or translators, correctors will be and will be, but have already been impacted. And also people who are making budget analysis. I mean, is their job going to disappear completely? No, not really. I mean, it's going to be transformed, that's for sure. Other jobs, for example, exposed to AI, there are some other jobs, I would say, which are more debatable. Judges or in instruction judges, for example, are might not be fully substituted by the machine. I'm not sure that they can be substituted anyway. It depends on what the society requires. It depends on the citizens, on what the citizens are asking as a job. I mean, today, I mean, we're talking about companies appointing machines on their board, and they are using AI tools as board members, so which means that they have decision-making power. And so this is a field where AI is very strong. AI is very strong to predict, to extract information from sets of data, and then we will have to develop our skills, and we will have to develop them on the way we're going to judge these results. I mean, we as human beings, we have a kind of a reflection. We can do many things. I mean, do we accept this or not? If you accept this prediction by the AI, and this is going to be part of the competence and skills we're going to, which are going to be required in the future, and it will have to be developed. Well, people we have to train to be able to work on that. when we read some studies, I mean, people using AI, at least, I mean, 50% or 59% say that when they use AI, they are more happy and satisfied with their work. Well, why? Because is it because it's kind of recurring and tedious task, or what is the reason why they are so satisfied? Well, it will very much depend on studies carried out. Some people will find yes, tedious, not tedious. Well, but there are tasks, for example, which are not fascinating tasks, tedious ones. And AI then will be able, yes, to carry out those tasks. And then we will save our energy to concentrate on other tasks where we have a kind of advantage and which are more stimulating. We also notice some negative aspect, that is techno-stress, the fear of being substituted, the fear of, that is the skill mismatch. That is what I'm asked as a worker and the skills I have, which do not match. And a study was carried out in Germany. But in fact, I mean, it seems that this negative effect is more important than the positive one, which doesn't mean that it's going to be the same for everyone, which doesn't mean that in the future it will still remain like that. It depends on how the worker is going to train and how he apprehend the AI, and depending on the skills he acquired, and then the way he's going to be able to use AI. We had some examples before on this in this forum where we have, I mean, AI producing very positive effect, and so AI sometimes. We have to accompany this movement and these changes so that it's a win-win process. Now, which means that we have a kind of redefinition somewhere, somehow, of the RH model, HR module, of the skill models, and we can see what's happening in this era. When we ask the question to the head of human resources, when we ask them if they use AI, yes, they say they use AI regarding career management, which is not necessarily obvious for everyone, but today we have tools whereby we use AI and we can sort out, sorry to say sort out, but between the various people who have these competence or skills, and then we use a system to ask candidates or applicants questions, and then we can sort out, and then we create a psychological profile so that we can see if the personality matches the job. And so you also speak about performance analysis. And for example, I have a Dutch tool which increases the performance by 40% with the sellers, and which has been proved in practice using this selective tool. And so we have a change in paradigm. And Samuel Novakovsky, what do you think of this tendency regarding the HR part, which is using more and more AI in the tools? Now, regarding what I was saying before, there's a kind of worry, and the worry is that, first of all, the first question is, what who are we? I mean, or what are we becoming when we ask the AI to do something human? Now, I can agree with the tedious task that the AI would carry out, and I think we can leverage out of this. But once we've done this, we have to be careful about biases, about the transparency in the way we're going to organize and classify the various files. Let's be clear also regarding a criteria which are going to be programmed in the system, so that we're going to select one rather than the other, depending on different things we're going to produce. And some studies, I mean, which have been released, show that the way apprenticeship is carried out, or learning is produced, and then sometimes we amplify sometimes skills. I mean, we're going to grant to men engineers jobs, and sometimes a housewife, we're going to grant her a job just like homework, okay? So let's be careful about the way we implement the AI results, and let's be clear about the way we're going to program and parameter all these tools so that we are not amplifying the skews of our society, which are numerous in terms of gender, in terms of skill colors, and so on and so forth. And so these are things we have to be cautious. And once we have taken all this into account, let's kick off. And so this topic maybe which was disregarded today, governance in AI tools in a company, and because, I mean, we have in organizations and not businesses, is the synthesis of what you said. And I believe that many people are jumping into AI science without being critical, without caring for governance, and then run the risk of falling into these biases. Now, today we have a diversified audience, and we have a young population as well. And now I would like to go to address myself to Marine Ading, and we're going to speak about human competence. So what is your vision regarding skills for the young population? Because we're not talking about the future, we're talking about today.
Merci pour cette question. Vous m'avez demandé.
Thank you for the question. You have asked me to be quite practical. I will be that, but I'd like to touch another level firsthand, if you may, and come back to company and competence and practical aspects, if I may. Absolutely. To talk about education, with AI and education into AI, two different aspects, really important to keep that in mind. Education with AI is a major question. I could come back to this with more specific questions, specifically what young people have to express. I'd like to remind you that the Foundation has launched an inquiry, Youth Talks, please. It's free of access. Go and have a look at the biggest youth inquiry survey with AI support for the analysis of the answers. Come back to this afterwards, but to come back to your specific question, first of all, in a society where AI is omnipresent, I don't know whether we have teachers here in the room and how young people will react, but what I'm hearing more and more is that youth actually are not listening to us anymore. So in a situation, it's been said, thank you, Samuel, for your contribution. So we need more human factors. We have to understand what we're opposed to, what is AI and how to handle it. And we're in classrooms where no attention is left. It's not evident for them either. At the time, you had a teacher as a guarantor for knowledge that was conveyed, but today, we were saying a few years ago, yeah, but information is available elsewhere, but knowledge not. And today we find it incompletely. I rebound on what you were saying. It has to be made more plain to everyone, but it's accessible. Less attention of young people. Let me remind you that this story of infinite scrolling in the social networks, there's dopamine set up in your brain, and each activity has to be gratifying immediately. Otherwise, you have young people in front of you, they don't know whether they should be sitting there listening to you, whereas there's so many other ways to acquire this knowledge. But restriction, it was quite clear, knowledge. Or if you ask ChatGPT to teach us certain things, it will be necessarily incomplete. And if you ask the same question tomorrow, there's going to be a different answer. So it's ever changing, the role of the teacher. And I come back to skills, competence. The role of teachers is changing drastically. We don't get the attention of young people, so we get in front of them. This old model doesn't work anymore. I have to be the center of the room. I have to accept that there's a lot of speeches going on and exchange, and I have co-create the acquiring of knowledge. You're not creating the content, but you're accompanying the process, guiding the pupils and students to learn what. Fundamental disciplines have to be the same. Be careful. Just a parenthesis. I'm anticipating a little. I was going to quote a few elements. Additionally to discipline, I'm teaching management, entrepreneurship, finance, economies, things like that. What do I have to bring additionally to my students? Well, an economy can use certain tools. We're talking about ChatGPT, but there's so many others. What tools to be used, in what way, what's behind these tools, and how use them in a responsible way, linking up to all the questions of fake news and disinformation. And on a higher level, also, if I may, the teachers have now also, and it's quite strange to put it like that, but they also have another role to help young people to know who they are. Why I'm saying that? When you know who you are, you have an emotional intelligence. I come back to what Aurélie Jean said. Analytical intelligence is available thanks to tools, but emotional intelligence, creative intelligence, and practical intelligence, not so. The professor has to bring up a link. And there's different cultures, different values. This will be more complex, but the young people are looking for that. And I want to quote our own surveys. 50,000 youth expressed themselves with 1 million different ideas. So we had to funnel it and project it into the world of the future. And we told them, in order to reach this world you're looking for, what do you have to learn in schools and universities? 19 to 24-year-olds mainly. What are your criteria for good learning? And we had a result we were not expecting at all. They weren't talking about technology, ladies and gentlemen. They were not talking about mathematics or management. These young people were asking explicitly to relearn to live together. They're talking about open-mindedness, empathy. They were talking about respect, solidarity. I'm not putting up a list of soft skills, and I'm insisting here. I'm putting up together a list of interactional, social skills. Communities are broken up, families are fragmented, social networks are creating obstacles. I'm 39 years old. I built myself with the others. We had social interaction, going out onto the streets. We had friends, and we understood who we were, mirroring in interactions we had with others. Young people today don't have that much. Social networks are isolating them. WhatsApp, you can add the pandemic. So young people now don't know anymore who they are. They need this information. And this brings me back to artificial intelligence. What do you mean artificial? If analytical AI is available, we need emotional intelligence, creativity, practical intelligence, because we want ethical and responsible leaders in the future. I don't know how far I'm already answering your question, but this point is really important. Let's remind ourselves education-wise, we have a major step to do, and it has to be done quickly. Because in companies now, what will you recuperate as young people and future members? I'm quite transparent and direct here, okay? You probably recuperate persons not having an occasion to know themselves, to discover themselves there. Quite often they want to go away with a backpack and discover the world, to see and learn who they are. This is quite telling, I thought. You will recuperate these young people, and this is our own fault in the teaching area. We are not managing to train them correctly to modern technology, to AI. They will use these AI tools, but without a framework, maybe wrongly, and they will end up somewhere online. This is risk linked to it. You will not say anything because you will not necessarily know and understand what they're doing and what tools they are using. There's going to be cleavages, so a disruption between the younger and the older members of your staff, and it's going to be very complicated to manage all this. And I have no time, but these also the theory of the great abandonment, the young people who want to travel, discover themselves, and then come back only. This study has been done by an American insurance company measuring loneliness. U.S. company. It's a statistical value that has been published for decades and quite regularly. We could see that people 70 and 80 years old are expressing the highest level of solitude. And for 5-6 years now, it's not anymore the 70, 80-year-olds. It's 18, 20, 22 years old as number one category expressing solitude. You have never been as connected and as alone and isolate at the same time. So studies that have been in existence for years and decades are corroborating and underlining what you just said. So curiosity has to be taught again, respect for rules, living together. It's a whole and unexpected program, actually. Yeah, quite unexpected as a program indeed. I would like to mention also lucidity and wisdom of these young people. I can only encourage you to go onto the website and discover what they told us. We were not expecting so much wisdom and lucidity from the young people. So bravo to them. It's easy for us to criticize. They're not listening and they don't care and what else. We have had a targeted study on AI, youth talks on AI. When we asked them what they wanted to learn, they weren't talking about technology, but what's going on here? We were wondering. And so we wanted to push and deepen this analysis and see themselves faced with this technology. Really interesting here as well. And we have co-drafted the manifest together with them, and they are telling us actually we are not neither in favor nor against it. They were born with it, so it's there anyway. First thing. Secondly, they tell us, and it's really clear, there's a lot of opportunities, and well, sometimes we are techno-positive in our approach. It's good, you have to do that, but they are a little bit more careful because they're suffering from this lack of human connection, and they're telling us AI for good, yeah, but not AI for access. And I'm taking up what Lou said in the panel up front. We want to be more productive. Okay, but to do what? Every time we've been more productive, as she said, it's like this. There was more usage, so there's no sobriety. We are more productive and do even more and consume even more resources. And that's something that will never end. And so the question here was rather more efficient AI, okay, but to do what with it? And this leads me to another level again. I want to talk to you about what's motivating you in the morning when you go for work. This is good for young people, but for all of you here as well. What makes them happy? There's a Harvard study that lasted 70 years, 70. And the researchers here were taking up to what leads to a situation when at the end of your life you say, I had a life that was full and I really loved it. It's about the relationship you had to people you liked. Not 100, maybe 5 or 10 people in your whole life you had close relationships with. AI were linked to human interaction. If we're all unhappy, there's no use for it. So links between this enormous technology, we couldn't have done our project without AI. So the technology is fantastic, but to do what? More consumption, less happiness? Well, we have to wonder then whether it's really worthwhile and that we have to stop somewhere. And then the question of profit, of money, which is unfortunately into the debate as well. But the young people are really in full lucidity here. Go and have a look. And Mr. Nowakovsky, how does it resonate? Well, it's resonating strongly, I have to say. There's different points I wanted to come back to. School, in the broadest sense, cannot. Well, actually, this is the debate we had been coming up as well, talking about political science as an example. It was to forbid AI in the schools, which is an aberration. If the schools and universities are not teaching to young people to be fully integrated in life with these technologies, no, you have to teach with and into AI as well. Another element of importance is changing roles of almost everybody. For quite a while now, and Marine was talking about it, but we had a first knowledge shock with the arrival of the web. When it came to the universities, the teachers were not any longer the only source of knowledge. That was a major shock, and we have a thing that can, produce a result, and we don't know where it comes from. Who brought it up? For what kind of skills and competence do we have to teach? We have to come back with, without hiding anything, our own way of being, our cycles of teaching also. Evaluating as we've been doing until now is not sufficient if you have learned by heart or other tasks that can be supplied a report, or the work at the end of studies can be transferred completely to a machine. So this has to be reviewed from the pedagogical side and from the organizational side. We need a complete refurbishment of our approach. And by the way, I can only invite you to have a look at the two references I like to quote. Dans la leçon d'UNESCO, so the theater play by UNESCO. Actually, the old system is killing the students and putting the pieces in the backyard. So things have been refurbished completely. In engineering school, in the certification of titles, CTI in France, we have disciplinary elements, geology, engineer, or another topical area. But to be certified now, you need a full transversal module concerning the humanities. Humanism, understanding the impact, understanding the way of working, of progressing. What do you do with all your different tools, and what kind of society are we building? And you have certain resistance areas, but the idea is being promoted that you cannot focus only on the disciplinary knowledge. A machine can take that up. But how is it articulated with the major challenges and our own position as humans and the way we are building society in the future together, with a definite spot for humans as well? And I'd like to quote Philippe Cadic, in one of his last conferences he gave in Metz. Philippe Cadic has never left his home, California, but in '77 he came to Metz just once. And at the time, we didn't quite understand it yet. He was knowing the knowledge of Ray Bradbury. Fahrenheit 7 was used. I'm followed by a police car, and there's no policeman in it, autonomously driving with a robot. Well, the principle of an autonomous car driven by a robot is not a problem, but the problem is instead of the driver, there was no one. And having suppressed the human in this context is a step that is beyond the point of no return. And so you can not come back to this. And here we have to be careful. Always make sure that in the decisional cycle a human factor is included. What Philippe Cadic was an optimist and said, well, this police car, I'm in Los Angeles in the 70s with a few shady parts of town. What will they do in certain areas? They will take the police car and take the parts and sell them individually. So you have to teach transgression as well, exploration outside the beaten tracks, support discussions about established values to acquire this as their own knowledge, and this as opposed to an AI vision which is normative and standardizing. Yeah, by the way, in a certain number, the secondary cycle is called les humanités, precisely, humanities. We've been talking about at the end of this afternoon of students, young people. Let's talk about the other part that's here as well, listening to us being at work between 30 and 50, or Guido a little bit older, yes, and probably want to know what they are supposed to do, maybe a little bit upset and uncertain. Maybe we are not that connected yet, although they have a mobile phone permanently in their hand as well. What will be the challenges and changes for them? May David may start? Yes, I can start if you like. The challenge is to avoid saying, no, that's not for me. It will happen no matter what, and it will be adopted by companies. It will be adopted by your work environment. You have to take some time to understand how it works. ChatGPT is just statistics, forecasting what will probably happen based on certain information, and you have to learn to use this adequately and positively, and this can be done for each and every one. What hasn't been mentioned yet, or hardly, you have to invest in continuous training, upscaling, reskilling, and this necessitates putting around the table different actors, actors from the educational field, school directors, deans from universities, but also company leaders. They know also what competence and skills they will need in the future and what will be covered by AI and what has to be maintained in the area of practice for humans. So you have to try and have a look, an overall look. What can I do and what AI cannot do? And you have to identify your own skills and focus fully on all the things AI cannot do and I can. These are the skills of the future that will be needed and asked for. Marine mentioned it. We have a lot of studies indicating that we have more and more job offers linked to social aspects, relationship aspects, teamwork. This is really exploding. It used to be exploding when robots were coming up. Now, with the further development of AI, even more. And these skills will have to be developed even more. Marine, do you want to add remarks? Yes, I will insist here again, insist on the human need. As a company leader working in different other companies, you've had the problem of retention of the young people. We know it. Young people are coming and going, and when you train someone to have him or her efficiently working in the company after 1 or 2 years, and then they will tell you that they're going to travel to get to know themselves and travel the world. That's difficult. You have all the AI tools coming up. Additionally, that's a lot. That's a lot to cope with, and I think that not only to settle this retention problem companies are having, but also to use ethically and responsibly. So emotional intelligence has to be deployed. Practical intelligence has to be deployed as well, and you have to keep the human being at the center of it all. Although you might be tempted to go elsewhere. And the question for you, I don't have an answer. Otherwise, I would be really rich already. Question for you: how can you make sure efficiently that new technologies are being used to get rid of all these recurring tasks? And that's extraordinary what a potential effort. All the while maintaining human relationships at the center of it all. I told you just before, these humans, when they wake up in the morning, they have to be happy to go to work in your company. This would be my recommendation for you. Maybe a question without an answer yet. Thank you. So this leads us slowly but surely to the end of this panel. You have an opportunity for a Q&A just in a while. Just one last, one recommendation of all panel members, your top recommendation for our public here concerning AI and skills of the future. One thing you would recommend. You have to train yourself, training where AI is not good and humans are still good and better, and go there full blaster. Soft skills, AI is not good in soft skills at all. You have to train in soft skills. Marine, today's education is the future world, so tomorrow's world. We have to wake up quickly. We've been working with our hands and the soil, then we've been exploring the stars with our brains, and quite surprisingly, we need a heart now. So coming back to my story of emotional intelligence, but once again, it's when you have this type of intelligence that you're able to tell, and I'm coming back to what I said before, well, okay, maybe we have to stop it there. We might even be even more efficient thanks to this technology, but is it still positive for the society as a whole, ecosystems, biodiversity, planet, and so on and so forth? Thank you, Marine. Samuel? A few points. Be curious. Curiosity for all these things going on ChatGPT, but there's dozens or hundreds of other systems that are available. Be aware of vulnerabilities coming from there. Train yourself, not be afraid. Roosevelt said, only be afraid of fright, and listen to the sirens of the Silicon Valley. So as soon as you hear them, shut your ears. And I would like to add governance from my personal point of view. Before giving you the floor for Q&A, it would be a good idea to test our friend ChatGPT to ask questions. So we're going to ask ChatGPT to give us a question as a panel. What do you reckon? Is that a good idea? Yeah, but what did you inject to get a question? Let's test it and let's increase the screen. So here we have it. Draft an original question that someone could ask after a panel discussion concerning the implementation of AI in the the world of labor and relationships. So what is the result. So, if artificial intelligence should become a working colleague, what unique human skills would we have to cultivate to guarantee a very fruitful cooperation? A system cannot be a working colleague. So the question doesn't make any sense. Okay, the panel is refusing to answer a non-relevant question, ChatGPT. It's refused. More original. Okay, more original. So, what will he say now? If artificial intelligence could choose a trade or profession amongst humans, what would it be according to you, and how would it transform your vision of skills and working values? Artificial intelligence asked the wrong question again because they do not select it. It's bizarrely formulated. Choose a trade or profession amongst humans. That's really strange. Now, let's put this aside. It's totally useless. We could have answered the question, but the question doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense because we are getting into a model which is completely not foreseen. And persons online listening to us on streaming can ask questions as well. You have a possibility on your platform to ask a question in written form. There will be read out here in the room. Do we have questions for our panel members? The skills of the future. Please, with a microphone. Good evening, all. Thank you very much for your contributions. Actually, the humans have to remain masters of AI and not servant of AI. That's what we just said, indeed. Yes, that's absolutely true. Thank you. And here in the middle, so the artificial intelligence has to be at the service of human intelligence. We've been talking about emotion, but not about culture and entertainment. What do you think of AI generating super movies, video games, and music we will like to listen to in the future? Well, actually, the problem is that it will generate something that has already existed. So the machine will not invent a new game. It will take up existing games, existing scenario, existing stories, existing music, and propose a game or music that will, in the best possible way, correspond to what you probably will maintain or take up. It's only a learning result. AI will not invent anything cultural at all. It's only taken up, reformulated, rewritten, remixed. So be careful here. AI will not create anything culturally that is completely new. It's structural. Creativity, originality will not come from AI. It will come from our little brains. That's nice, isn't it? Yes, creativity can also be defined as a rearrangement of an initial arrangement. So here, it's a very fine line to separate both. Well, I would talk about originality rather than creativity. As it has been said by somebody, AI doesn't invent anything. It will simply remix based on existing things. To have something completely new created, that's not possible by AI. And so we will always have directors, screenwriters, composers. AI is not capable of doing that. And as you said, there's a fine line to separate. Read an article about something that happened, or a critical article based on creation. It's about the way to ask a question and what is the result you're expecting based on a certain question, and what does it mean create? To create, for instance, a painter will be inspired by other paintings to create his own, maybe copy parts of them, but there's other phenomena that are different as compared to the copying of existing things. And the creative act has passed by errors, trial and errors. It takes time, and the machines are completely out of these types of production cycles. Thank you for this question. The students over there, no curiosity from your side? Everything okay? You're not too traumatized either? I would have loved to play the devil's advocate, you said at 90% AI was safe, that you have relevant answers. Are humans sure at 100% in that sense? And when you talk about rearranging data, I would like to take as a contrast the four major accords. So you can have 10,000 songs written. You're not reinventing music and music they're listening to do even today, or remixes of things you had before. Now, right now it's the 90s and 2000s with remastering. Will humans continue? If you see after 2 years of ChatGPT or text to video, for the generative AIs. Will humans still have a relevance here and be in advance of technology? We will be closer to 100% as compared to AI. If I may, well, it's not so much to a question of measuring the human activity percentage-wise in their success. It's not really. No, it's putting the question in the wrong way. We have structural elements. AI will produce a result based on probability calculations. What you will do will not be based on calculation of probability. I have used the 3 or 4 accords of blues music to have something similar coming up. But you have other elements. The moment in my life, relationships I had with others, I want to talk about my lost love or the joy I've felt. All this will lead to a situation where, based on an identical basic scheme, you will have an infinity of versions and variations of these 3 accords, these 3 strings. If I take a blues song, it's always the 3 same accords, but the way of having humans in their uniqueness, appropriating this is always an individual personal story. And a machine will never, ever, because it's a threshold where machines will never go beyond. A machine will never be able to do this. So to measure human activity performance-wise is bring us back to the status of the machine. It's devalorizing what humans are capable to do. But we will make mistakes, but we will learn from the mistakes. We will meet people, and we will transform errors to strengths, and machines will optimize criteria defined by humans, completely opposed to what we are as living creatures. We're talking about humans, but animals is the same. Just a little example to end what I was saying in my course. In Japan, you have a city, Sendai, and there's a crossroads with traffic lights, and crows like the nuts of the trees at the crossroads. And crows have understood, they have seen that cars will stop at red light, start at the green light, and crows will pose nuts on the floor when there's a red light, and then when it's green, under the tires, the nuts will be broken, and they can eat them. So this is completely inventive, and artificial intelligence is one thing, but human and living intelligence is something different that cannot be taken over. So let's be careful here, not compare ourselves with machines.
Ce qu'on est en train de discuter.
Going to take a question online.
Dignity, power balance, etc. Legal frameworks develop too slowly, ça on sait. What can companies do to proactively mitigate risks? David?
Effectivement, ça a été évoqué tout à l'heure. Déjà, il y a eu.
As a matter of fact, this was approached previously with a massive quantity of data. So with this data, we can do many things. I mean, who is who thinks what. Now, is AI capable of knowing exactly what the person knows? Or but there's a risk anyway, and we have to act consequently. But we are in our research well in advance, because the public authorities adopted the AI Act, which builds up a framework in which we may use data to produce AI. And I think we have to go in this direction. Companies also can implement rules and regulations. You could imagine, for example, status or articles saying the way you may use AI, the kind of data you can introduce, and so use ChatGPT at work or not, and then you get data which are private to the company. to ChatGPT, sorry. And so there are debates internally with everyone in the company. I mean, whether trade unions, workers, blue collars, white collars, the management, for example, and see how we can use all this. I think, well, I can see you willing to react. I mean, you asked me to be practical. I'll try to, I want to add up to what you said, David, but ask your employees to document the kind of AI or the kind of tools they are using and why and how, and then do a follow-up because the regulations are being set up and settled, so we're somehow lost. Now, ask your employees to document and organize loops and regular meetings to understand who does what and how in order to be able to define a frame before, I mean, waiting for the new regulation, official regulation frame to be released. But again, I mean, it's very important. I mean, we need people to reflect internally, reflect on the possible bypass, the possible skews, and test the tools also before you roll them out. Test to make sure about what they are doing. This is fundamental because governance is fundamental. Now, how many businesses do this? I mean, very little, very few of them. We just start head first, and we buy something, and we listen to the seller. So you have to be cautious, and this is fundamental. Now,
mandatory for digital companies to adhere to. Shouldn't responsible AI become mandatory for digital companies to adhere to?
C'est une sous-question de la question
C'est
précédente.
la sous-question de la précédente.
well, it is kind of sub-question of what we've already handled and processed. Thank you very much to the three of you. They deserve a big round of applause. Thank you. Thank you.